Well, I came from a mining family. My father was a miner. It was happy enough. I've always been able to, always had a good meal, and had good health, fortunately. And these are two things you've got to be grateful for. And I was able to carry on right from the school days, encouraged by my family, and father and brothers, in the footballing world.
What was the nature of the environment? Was it a pit village?
Oh yes. The population would be about 12,000. But of course, they were just mad about football, and we were fortunate at school to be very keen. I was brought up nearly at school on professional lines, because when we were at school, the teacher there was he'd played a bit of football. We had an old professional as a caretaker, and during the lessons you would be brought out and told to go and see the caretaker, where you would be given a mustard bath and a massage and egg and sherry. This, at schoolboy level, is bordering on professional.
I suppose in those days you were being pampered, weren't you? Egg and sherry.
This actually happened at the school, at Eppleton School, that I was at there for 3 years, and we won. I got about 18 medals at this school, and they were really had a professional outlook to football.
Did you decide then that you'd become a professional footballer if you were good enough?
Well, I'd always wanted to be one, yes. That was the foremost thing in my mind. It was either going down the pits or being a footballer. And I think this is where the North East, in the pre-war days, where, there were so many footballers to be found up there.
Because there was so much incentive?
So much incentive. It was either down the pits or playing football. I started at the Hetton Lions Colliery for about 3 months, and fortunately, it might have been unfortunate for a lot of people there, but the colliery closed down. In between this time, my father had been badly injured at the pit, and so he was always against me going to the pit to work. So I started, and I served my time as a bricklayer after. And after his injury and the pit closing down, he wouldn't let me go back again at another colliery.
What were you doing in those 3 months at the pit?
Well, I was only on what they call on bank, on the top of the pit head, and sorting the coal and the stone, sorting the stone from the coal. I got to say now that I had little interest in this, and often the coal got thrown in the stone bin, but when the foreman came around, as long as something was getting thrown off the screen.
Yes. Who were your sporting heroes in those days? You went to Roker Park, didn't you, supporting Sunderland?
Yes, Sunderland was my team that I supported, and this is in the days of Jimmy Connor, Patsy Gallagher, Alec Hastings, McNabb, Hall and Gorman, Middleton, goalkeeper. These were the idols, the ones that I looked up to, and possibly Jimmy Connor was one of my favourite players.
Between the wars, the North East was a bleak place, wasn't it? A lot of poverty there. What is it that you recall particularly when you look back on those days? What I'm thinking is there, in your mind, a much brighter side to the picture that is often presented to us of the North East at that time?
Well, they were very happy. As I say, the poverty was there for to be seen, but the people were happy, and they accepted the lot, because it sometimes grieves me now when people say what a state the country's in now, and then when you look back to those days, and yet you were happy, and you didn't have anything at all, and the people were so much happier then, and you just can't wait up this present day.
Is there any quality, do you think, that the North East gave you that you couldn't have got somewhere else?
Oh, certainly the character, and to take things, to be modest and thankful for small mercies. I'm grateful for everything that goes along, and if I've been particularly lucky in my profession, I'm very grateful for it, and I certainly wouldn't be You get it? That's why I try to be modest about the whole thing. I think this was the upbringing. This is what I was taught, to be thankful, like, if you're more successful than other people.
But you've not been lucky, have you? I mean, what you've got, I think, through grit. And I'm wondering if a gritty approach is something that is born of the North East.
Possibly so. This is what I say, the character. You're reluctant to be pushed down. You'll keep going. Doesn't matter what circumstances prevail and that, you'll just keep going at them. And while you don't say it's luck, certainly there's a certain amount of luck, but there's perseverance and this reluctance to give in.
Football's changed a lot, hasn't it? Changed in so many ways that it hardly seems at times to be the same game. Gone are the old straightforward simple formations. Things like the tough shin guards have gone as well, the heavy boots, the heavy ball, the robust shoulder charge that might send the goalkeeper in the back of the net. And something else that's gone to a great extent anyway, is the beautiful ball play. Now, you've been in contact with the game over the years of change, so you've played a part in the changes. Have we got anything better these days, do you think?
Well, it's so much big business now. I think this is the biggest thing, and that pre-war and that in those days there was some very skillful players, but it wasn't as commercialised as the present game and that. And as I say, this is big business, and the whole structure's changed. Tactically, the game's changed, and people say, why don't they go back to that? I don't think they can go back to that. Training and everything, that's all really geared up to really fast stuff now. Some of there's some great players, and possibly they would have done, lots of players would have done better had they been playing in this football. I know that there's plenty I would like to have in my side, but having said that, there was lots of players couldn't have done the training what these boys do now. And again, the number of games that's played. This is, I mean, some of these lads turn in 70 and 80 games. The training has been geared to real high-class stuff, not quality-wise, but stamina-wise, and they've got to really look after themselves. And there's, quite honestly, there's lots of the older players wouldn't have lasted the training present day.
Players these days have a better constitution, you think?
I don't think so. I don't think they have a harder constitution. No, this is conditioning. It's got to be prepared into them. There's no doubt some of the older players, pre-war players, would have been far better players had they had some of the training that's put into some of these boys now.
What about the game as a spectacle?
Well, it was more enjoyable, possibly, in the olden days, because there wasn't as much frustration crept in. The demand for a result wasn't as vital. All right, if you're in the cup or the running for the honours in the league, but that could only happen to about four clubs in the season. The others then would be enjoying the football. There's no doubt about it. Pre-war, the game was enjoyed more. It was enjoyed more by spectators. Now the spectators, and this is what causes possibly some of the violence, isn't that? Because the result is such a vital factor in that, and everybody's demanding results in that, and the spectators then get frustrated, and when the team hasn't scored, it's high. This is the way of life now. Everything's geared at such a higher pitch now.
First, though, 50 years at Liverpool and so many players passing through in that time. Which of those from all of those different eras would he have signed as a manager?
Oh, there's hundreds I would have. I mean, the names that comes. I won the Billy Liddell. There's the Tommy Finney. Stan Matthews, there's hundreds of them that I would like in my side, and they would know.
You don't go along with this theory that they wouldn't have lived in the modern game?
Well, this is difficult to... I never get involved with any of those arguments about which team was best and that, but without a doubt there was some great players before the war. All I'm saying is some of them wouldn't have stood up to the training, but others would have been far better than they were if they'd been trained the way they are today. But certainly, I wish they would just say to me, you've got 11 to pick pre-war players, and then or 14, and I would be quite happy.
You made your mark as an amateur footballer in the North East, winning an Amateur Cup Winners' Medal with Bishop Auckland in 1939. And when it came to joining a Football League club as a player, it was Liverpool you joined. Why not the club you worshipped, Sunderland?
Well, to be quite honest, Sunderland had turned me down because I was too small, and then Sunderland came back again. But I'd, by that time, promised to come down to Liverpool.
Looking back on your playing career as a vigorous wing half, I think vigorous is the right term, isn't it? What were the highlights for you?
Well, the championship. We won the championship in 46-7. Incidentally, every club I've been concerned with, I must have been lucky for them because they've won something. So I'll put that down to luck. Then I was delighted that the club got to Wembley, but I was disappointed that I didn't play in it. But I think the championship then had to be my highlight as a player.
Was that your biggest disappointment, being left out of that cup final team?
No, without a doubt, without a doubt. That's the most disappointing thing that could ever happen to a player, and I grieve. And since then, from a trainer and coach and manager, I've seen this happen, these games, and have to tell boys that they're out of important games. I know I can feel for them.
How exactly did you feel on that morning in 1950, 2 days before the final, when you heard that you wouldn't be playing at Wembley?
Well, I felt sick, really sick, and but there's little you can do about it. To be left out, I can honestly say I think every footballer's ambition is to play at Wembley. I think they would rather have the ceremony and the pomp and that goes on at the Wembley stadium than anything. And quite honestly, I think that must be everyone's ambition to play at Wembley. And you can imagine how sick one of the most important things to happen to a football, and then it just gets taken from you at the last grasp.
I said you were gritty, but at the same time you wouldn't be human if you didn't feel very disappointed at that time. Did you actually think of packing in? Was it as bad as that?
Yes, I thought about everything. And of course, like everything else when in football, and people with the same complaint, like always seem to gather round then when the people that's had a disappointment or something else in some other walk of life, they're the first ones to give you advice, and it isn't always the best. And and they're telling you to pack in and do this and do that. But I reasoned out that, well, in the end, if I went to any other club, if I got transferred to another club, the same thing could have happened the next year. There was no guarantee that that wouldn't happen the next year. So in the end, I think it all turned out right.
Let's talk again about players now. Even allowing for inflation, players are so much better paid these days than they were in your day, and the outstanding ones can earn quite fabulous sums. But do they have as much application to the game, do you think? Do they give as much?
Oh, well, it's just the same as pre-war, as far as that's concerned. Some players give more than others and that. And as I say, you talk about the finance, so there's lots of people earned more than me at this game. And but there's nobody enjoyed it as much.
And I suppose that's your reward in great measure, isn't it?
Yes, I think if you're doing something that you enjoy. This was a bit taxing, this job, but right through, I'd enjoyed every other one.
Yes, it must have been taxing coming into this job, but when you retired from playing, you stayed at Anfield and you had various roles here, always involved with the players, until you took over the managership from Bill Shankly in '74. How did you feel succeeding Shankly?
Well, I never applied for the job. I wouldn't have applied for the job. But it came at us just overnight, and Bill decided to retire. And I thought, well, if I don't take it, then I'd work with the boys, the backroom staff, Joe Fagan, Ronnie Moran, and the others, Reuben Bennett, Jeff Twentyman. I'd work with them. And if someone new came in, and this was the first thing that crossed my mind, and I thought, well, I've got to make a go of it, even for to keep this, because there's such a family spirit at Liverpool, and this is probably where the team spirit stems from. And I thought, well, I'd better give it a go.
But Shankly epitomised in such an amazing way the successes of Liverpool that it must have been a daunting prospect to follow him, wasn't it?
Yes, well, as I said, that was foremost in my mind, what I've just said, that it was for the staff. And there's no doubt about it. Bill was a great manager and that, and so well liked, and everybody held him in such high esteem.
What were the problems? Did he seem to be sitting over your shoulder in the early days of your managership?
Everywhere you went. Bill wasn't unique for nothing. I mean, I don't use that term loosely when I say Bill was unique as a manager. I mean, his very presence when he goes in, and all the rooms seemed to be filled. He opened the drawer and you felt Bill was there and that. And it was a tremendous sort of pressure, and something I hadn't give a thought about. When I got in, I said, Bill's been a great manager and that, but he couldn't have done nothing without a great team. And they were the boys that won it, and the backroom staff would be the first to agree with me on that score.
There's a joke story that goes the rounds that you felt you'd failed in your first season as manager, and you didn't do badly, did you?
That's right. I put this out myself. I felt that, everyone was looking over his shoulder and said, well, you didn't win anything this year. And I felt like the chap that thought he had a near miss on the spot the ball because the man next door won it.
Yes. Where do you think the game is going in Britain?
Well, this is going to be difficult because there's going to be still lots of changes going to come in. Sponsorship and everything's going to take over in football. I'm quite convinced of this. Otherwise, we're not going to be able to keep the good players that we do breed.
You may not like this, but I really can't let the opportunity go by without talking about football hooliganism. I say you may not like this because there are some managers who feel that football gets blamed for the ills of society. And I know that you've got a great crowd at Liverpool. Some clubs, though, do have great problems with crowd behaviour. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, nobody detests violence and that more than I do. But I hold the view too that if there wasn't any football, that wouldn't finish violence, because they'd soon go to the flower shows and everything else. And football gets a blame for a lot of it, which if they did cut football out, they would go to some of these other places and that.
Do you think the exhibitionist behaviour of some players, and the game is more exhibitionist now than it used to be, do you think the exhibitionist behaviour of some players has got anything to do with this hooliganism? I'm thinking of things like dissent, obviously, and even the clenched fist salute to the crowd by the scorer of a goal, the sort of thing that can be interpreted, if you look for these signs, as a gesture of aggression.
There's no doubt about it that sometimes that encourages and some of the supporters not take the wrong view about it, and then the television too comes into this. They highlight something like that which shouldn't be highlighted. I'm quite sure of that. I think we've all got something, a little bit of guilt in this score, and we get carried away a little bit, even to a referee demonstrating on the pitch. It all adds up at times.
Has there been any time in your long association with the game, apart from that fleeting moment in 1950 when you heard that you weren't going to be playing at Wembley, when you've thought that you ought to have been doing something else, that you ought to have chosen a different path?
I don't think so. I always wanted it to be connected with football, and when I started, I thought, well, if I can kick a ball until I die, that'll do me, and that's the way football's gone, and I hope it keeps like that. There's no way that I would have changed it. Had I had to do it all over again, I'd do just the same.
Bob Paisley, thank you very much for talking to me. We'll end, I think, on some music. What will this be? Might it be that battle hymn of the North East, Blatant Races?
No, I'll go for the Liverpool one. I'm very patriotic to the North East too, but I think I'll side for the one that, as I said before, the Liverpool one. I've enjoyed my stay here, and I've come to love the Liverpool people. I've fought with the sons of Liverpool, so I think I'll have You'll Never Walk Alone.